Hey everyone, welcome. Thanks for tuning in. Tonight's show is going to be a lot of fun because we're going to have actually a lot more guests than we're used to having. We're going to be having, I think, 5 guests total here, starting with our friend Litos from Florida, followed by Don McDonald, and then we've got Ty McEwen, and actually 4 guests. Finally, after that, my sister Hannah, who will be joining us for the critiques. And tonight's theme is collaboration. There's a lot of collaboration happening in the tattoo world. It seems like it's an industry where people are very open to kind of softening up the normal boundaries that artists have around themselves and kind of mixing it up a little bit.
Hey, hi, Litos. How you doing?
Hey, Michele. How you doing? How you doing, guys?
Outstanding.
Hi, guys.
We're psyched to see you. It's been way too long.
Good to see you guys, and thanks for having me.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us.
So yeah, we wanted to talk about the collaborative experience.
Our experience was pretty much the one that I cherished, that I had a lot of fun because it kind of involved so many different levels of things. Like you approached me with the sculpture direction that you suggested. It was a great thing. It was just an eye-opener, and having the ability to connect in a different level in a completely different media that I wasn't really completely familiar with, that was definitely positive in my approach to the tattooing. And you know, that's just, I strongly recommend to everyone to be involved in collaborative ways, because it kind of open your eyes to your own limitations and in respect to the artists that you're working with. It's kind of having a coach, and you're your own coach by respecting the other artists and trying to expand your horizons by trying to suppress the walls or the lack of experience that you had on certain mediums. So that was very nice for me to experience that.
Yeah, I've definitely found that a good collaboration project, and that's been most of them that either of us have ever been involved in, has been a case where kind of the artists fill in for each other's weaknesses and kind of strengthen each other's strengths in some ways, and it usually turns out to be greater than the sum of its parts. I like the sculpture medium for collaboration, because even when people have no experience with it, it's like once you're actually working with the clay, and especially if somebody else in the room has a little bit of experience just in, you know, keeping the project together, something that happens very naturally.
Yes, yeah, I agree with that. And people don't realize, in respect to the collaborative work, you know, the artists have been doing a lot of that. I mean, the times or the people that we used to admire of Da Vinci and all those guys, actually they did collaborative paintings where they have their students work on paintings on you know, little aspects of it. And that's how they actually got chosen to move on in their career, by the being able to expose their techniques and actually excel from other artists. And not that it's a competition, but it's a way to really push yourself to the next level.
Yeah, well, Da Vinci actually talked a lot about that sort of constructive competition between artists, where it's not like you're trying to outrace each other, but you see other people excelling, and it makes you feel, you know, more motivated to try to push yourself and be better.
Yes, exactly. I mean, there's so many different levels to do the collaboration pact. It's just working with an artist that you really respect and admire, kind of watching out what they're doing and actually put your own spin on things, knowing that they're watching you as well. And it's kind of a very, very nice bonding, you know, in creating that element where at the end you realize, oh my God, we did this together, and that's a great feeling.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. What would you say is one of the I don't know, single biggest things that you learned from the project that we did? I mean, I learned a lot of things too, but I'd like to hear your take on it, you know, in terms of other people listening, like what they could hope to gain as tattooists in particular.
Well, like I said, I will say that collaborative work is probably one of the most important things that an artist should experience, for the fact that you should really watch out when you work in such a close proximity. On our case, for example, working on a forearm is not a back piece. Even on a back piece, you know how sensitive we can be to the movement of the body. Sometimes they might move their right arm on the way to the left, and it will show, and you can feel that. It's kind of a little bit of a tsunami effect. And you have to watch like how I'm stretching the skin, and how watching what are you doing. Can I step in to that proximity at that point? So there is a lot of a back and forth thought process and respect mechanically to how I'm moving on the body, touching the body, stretching it, and the same way evolving, so we can combine the two styles and not clash to one another. I think that's the key for collaborative work, is that you should complement each other, not really separate the two. And that's why I thought it was very, very nice to actually being able to, if you look at the final project of the pieces that we did, people kind of get a resemblance of exactly what your style is and what my style is, but they can't really tell who did what. You know, that is I think it's a success collaborative work. You know, it's just like when you use a piece of art as a unit, then I think we achieve what we wanted, you know, and I think that's the most important thing.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, they'll just naturally ask, well, so who did what? But the whole point is to mix it up as much as possible. I think that, I mean, like with Michele, I've collaborated with her quite a bit, and our styles are almost polar opposite. I don't know, Michele, what would you say about artists with very different styles working together? How does that make for a good collaboration?
I would say that regardless of who's doing the collaborative piece, if you're communicating well with the person you're collaborating with, it should work, regardless of what kind of style you have, because you're both bringing something to the artistic process, and it's going to combine. You know, as long as the communication is good and you know what steps you're taking to work together. Yeah,
and I think that's key for sure, is the communication part. And you know, we've been involved in things like the Art Fusion projects, which, you know, that's kind of the opposite. There's no communication, and of course the goal isn't necessarily to try to create a great piece of art, but as a result, they often, you know, have this sort of mishmash quality to them. And I think people, when they try to collaborate that way, they often get frustrated with the whole idea of collaboration.
Why don't we ask Don what he thinks?
Don, are you here?
Yeah.
You hear us?
Hi, Don. Right. How you doing? Nice to see you.
Good to see you guys.
Don McDonnald, he's been coming here to Hyperspacestudios for 15 years, twice a year, and during that time, he and I have done a ton of different projects together, including collaborative sleeves, leg sleeve, throat sleeve, back piece, a couple of major paintings, design art for a sleeve and back on me and a back on him, etc. We've built models together. It's been a great learning process. That's really what we want to talk about here tonight, is everything that we've gained so far from collaborating, and from this very kind of radical way of stepping out of our normal comfort zones and seeing what we can stretch ourselves to do. Well, I mean, obviously you and I have very compatible styles, and you know, we've done work on each other that is in kind of our collaborative style, you know, the same look that we've done in projects on other people. And, you know, with our styles being very compatible, what would you say about the resulting kind of projects that we've done together? What's different about them?
You're right that we've both been real lucky, and, you know, their styles are so close that the end result seems to be just seamless, you know. So, you know, I just feel like that every collaborative project I've done with you, it looks similar to something I would do, but just way better, because there's so much growth that happens in that project. You know, instead of waiting 6 months for my own style to change, I can see it all change in one project that fast. That's the most exciting part for me.
Nice. And do you feel like after something like that, you can go home and plug back into the things that you've learned from that?
Yes, I go home and start right there. You know what I mean? Instead of go back to what I was doing, I feel like it's just a huge jump, which I said, you know, I notice in my own work usually takes me about 6 months, you know, maybe 4 to 6 months to try to see some progress where things are changing and evolving. But, you know, one collaborative project, and it's just a big catapult. It's pretty exciting.
Litos, would you say that there were any like specific things that you were able to take home from the project that we did?
pretty much 110% of everything. It actually inspired me, and you get that urge of actually continuing that experience. And I think that was actually a very, very big project because it involved so many different elements that, the sculpture, the drawing, and I felt that we're so connected in that part that we did everything 50-50 in equal parts. So obviously, the more you do it, the more comfortable you get, the more little tricks in tune you get with the artist, and actually, obviously, working with the different artists, I actually expand our horizons because there are different styles that are going to be jumping into play. But I took every ounce of creativity and inspirational moments and words, and just it was nothing but positive for me. So I really thank you for that, and I can't wait to do another one.
Nice. And Don, could you think of like actual specific things that you've taken home from collaborative projects that you were able to directly apply?
Yeah, I mean, specifically, some of the models you and I have built, we've taken, maybe 50 to 100 photos of these models in every stages. So I've noticed that when I come home, I'm already overwhelmed with how, much we learned just from doing that project. But then we have all these photos of, the models that we've built, and sometimes it takes me up to a year to, take one photo we didn't use, maybe just a little texture or something, and that ends up being the base for a whole other tattoo. So we end up with all this reference that you never even imagined you would have, stuff that we just, built together and like, maybe we'll use that someday. And that ends up being pretty valuable material.
And kind of like with the Biomech project, with everybody working together, that was all new language. We got to see new shapes and textures and completely different uses of, familiar elements. And, I know I wouldn't have thought to do it all that way,
Right.
Not on my own.
Right. That's pretty amazing that, all the collaborative work you've got going on for that book. I never would have imagined to pass drawings amongst, 3 or 4 people, let alone 2. So, I think that really just made the collaborations grow even quicker, having that many people involved. And, like you said, it's just ended up with something, a final result that you never would have imagined.
So I guess what should we do next? Now that we've done just about every part of the human body?
I don't know. There's always paintings, which are fun, and we seem to, get into pretty elaborate sculptures. So I'm pretty much open for whatever you're interested in. What do you think?
We're
What
all
do you want to do
students
next?
Oh, gosh. Well, Michele and I have got a back piece coming up on somebody, and you want to describe the project a little bit?
What piece is
Harley's
that?
back?
Oh yeah, she wants the Big Bang from a scientific perspective.
Oh.
So that should be really interesting. And she's tiny, so we should be able to crank it out in just like probably a couple sittings.
Well, we've already done her sleeve, and I'm sure we could do a little bit more on it. But it's kind of funny, even when somebody is small, once you really tunnel into a project, you could still put an amazing amount of hours into it.
Absolutely. It seems like sometimes smaller tattoos, you can spend more time than a bigger one. Not even sure why. You just pack more detail into it and really, really tighten it up.
Well, in collaborative pieces, as you know, they can often move ridiculously fast. It's amazing how much work gets done. You look across, to the other side of the tattoo that the other person's working on, and you're like, oh, wow. That's all work that would have still been left to do if you were doing it on your own. But yeah, I'm excited about this project because, Michele's got her no outline style. She does this very painterly, colorful sort of look. And then, I've got this, I don't know what you would call it, and I'm not sure how I would apply it towards this Big Bang thing. But it's not just going to be an outer space piece. We can bring in a lot of different elements. And I'm very excited to see what she and I do together because our styles are so opposite. But at the same time, they come together in a way that really works.
I think anyone can work together. I don't think it matters what your style is, and I don't think it matters whether someone uses a black outline and someone uses bold contrast. It's about mixing and matching and making it work, and that happens when you communicate and when you have a good strategy for how you're going to approach the piece, which is evident in what I've seen you guys all do, especially Guy and Don. You guys spend a lot of time preparing And that's where a lot of the hard work goes. So you can just have a lot more freedom and fun when you're actually doing the tattoo, because you've done all your studies, whether it's making a model or, talking about your drawing ahead of time and sketching, all that stuff. All that preparatory work makes the end result a lot more complete and successful.
Yeah, or like the model that Litos and I did, we actually then took that into Photoshop. We did a bunch of research, Googled some stuff, completely changed and swapped around elements. I think there were 2 full days of preparation in that. But then Russ Abbott was talking about a project that he recently did with Gunnar, where they actually were able to get their reference together. They built a model, painted it, changed some existing stuff. But, under an hour, they really had something they were already able to work with, because, of course, they're going to redraw it and do their own thing with it. But having that custom reference that you've built together, it gives you a foundation that's going to take the project in whole new directions.
And that applies to everything you do, whether it's a collaboration or an independent piece, is preparing, doing your homework first. I think it's really important in a tattoo is to know what your strategy is before you actually sit down to ink.
Especially with a collaboration, it eliminates all the guesswork when you start tattooing, and what direction you're heading in, and allows you to work a little quicker. So you're not trying to guess what you're going to do on one end of the tattoo, what I'm going to do on the other end of the tattoo. And I do like what you said, Michele. Sometimes the more diverse the styles, sometimes the crazier the end result of the collaboration is. Some of the collaborations I've done with Steve Morris look a lot different than what me and Guy will do.
I'd like to see what you guys have been up to. I haven't seen any of your collaborations. It sounds cool.
Like you guys were saying earlier, you can't really say, well, Don really did this and Steve really did this. It really is a pretty good mesh of both styles.
Well, I think when you really jive with someone and you're collaborating, it's not about, you kind of let go of your ego a little bit and you become a hive mind with what you're trying to accomplish. So this way, you're not likely to say, oh, I did this and he did that, because it doesn't matter. So like what you're saying, you can't distinguish who did what because that's irrelevant. It's like you're working together, and that's what creates the piece and makes it more dynamic than if one individual had done the tattoo. You can take pride in knowing that you contributed to it.
And I can't believe that, the whole project started with a can of soup. That is just insane. That blew my mind. It's like, okay, this is how we're going to start. And it's like, okay.
Well, you got to start with something.
That's right. The most simple things, life is simple and we complicate ourselves. And that proves right there that simplicity is the key to success, for sure.
That was the middle of the model. We needed some kind of solid thing to build it around, and tin foil and everything else. And Don and I have used all kinds of crazy stuff. We once took apart a moped to have some gears to work with, and every kind of garage junk. We've gone to the hardware store and gone through all the hoses and conduits and things, and after you mishmash it all together and do your artist thing with it. It doesn't matter what the materials are. It matters what you make out of it.
Definitely. I think that anyone watching this program, though, should consider doing a collaborative just to experience it and grow as an artist and just see what you learn from it. That's the only way you're really going to know the benefits of collaborating. Look at people who've collaborated successfully and let it be your inspiration and see what comes out of it. I think it's really a constructive artistic experience as a tattooist to collaborate with another artist.
Take nature as an example that, ants, they band together to, kind of get a lot of things done. And, us as a nation and, artists should do the same thing and band and use their expertise and their styles and their skills together, and it will create great things. So,
yeah, there's this ego thing that I think stops a lot of artists from doing that. And I just think something about the tattoo community makes it easier.
Well, also, if you have favorite artists and you only have so much skin, you can get 2 artists for one spot and really vamp up your collection, which is pretty cool.
Well, that's the other thing is people are more willing to collect collaborative pieces now because there's so many nice ones walking around. It's no longer just an experimental process. It's a way that artists can get together and make great tattoos.
Yes.
Just do it. Everyone should try it, to do a collaborative or collect a collaborative if you want to see what it's all about.
I guess that would be a good question to ask both of you, is if you had advice for other artists who are looking to collaborate, what's a good way to get started and to avoid the pitfalls of a project that veers off course?
I think what you said as far as being prepared, do color rendering so that, both people know what direction it's going in to eliminate all the guesswork. And, that's probably the most important thing, making sure that you got a good enough size area to work, not having too tight of an area. Steve and I have done some collaborations in my room, and it gets pretty tight in there when you got 2 people plus a client.
Anybody that's considering that, I think there's a lot of communication involved on that, finding someone that you actually relate to, not just because of their skills. You have to connect somehow and actually really communicate with the person, knowing what kind of direction you're taking, and actually try to find the right recipient for that project, because it always would take an effect on the result and how you guys work together. So it has to have a combination of so many different things: the environment, the communication between the 2D artists, and the preparation to be ready for the test.
A thing I think people are afraid of getting something that's too much of a mishmash, but we've never seen that happen with any of the projects that have come through here, and it's because
We've been lucky.
Well, it's always been good communication.
Yeah, I can't think of a single piece that's come through Hyperspacestudios that didn't turn out great. Seriously, I mean, you see some of those art confusions or what are they called?
Art fusions.
We call them art confusions. So
well, the ones that don't turn out.
I mean, a lot of it's just chaos visually. People collaborating together, drawing. It's visual chaos. And I think it's a real sign of success when you can do a tattoo that's permanent and make it look good without any visual chaos in it, with it really working. It's an incredible accomplishment. And I've seen a lot of great stuff turned out of our studio and abroad.
Yeah, and one of the things with the art fusions, and I don't want to sound like I'm talking down about it, because they were great experiences, and people are actually doing better and better art fusions now that they've got some practice. But that underscores the importance of having good communication. And the idea with the art fusions was to leave your ego at the door, but that happens anyway. Even when you sit down and plan meticulously with the other artist, you're not competing to see who can overpower the other artist. Once that communication starts, you're finding the best way of mixing.
Using your strengths.
Yes.
And building your weaknesses.
Exactly. So we don't want to run out of time. We've got one more guest before Hannah comes on and we start doing our critiques. This is Ty McEwen, who's going to be joining us shortly. Yeah, he was just here for a leg sleeve project on this guy, Cirillo, who just sat like a madman. Ty, you want to tell us a little bit about the experience?
Yeah, it was amazing, man. I've always wanted to do a collab with you. So it couldn't have been a more perfect client. The guy was super eager, had no real direction other than for us to just, take it and go as far as we could with it. And he sat like a rock for, 9 hours both days.
Yep.
And it was just it was a really good process of tattooing, like it was a lot of back and forth with, marker and, preparing everything and drawing the night before, and then, the tattooing went super smooth.
Turned out great too. I remember seeing it when it was done, and it was amazing.
Yes, we've got one more visit, and in 2 visits, we're almost, I'm sure we could still do work after that, but that's the amazing thing about the amount of work you can get done in a collaboration. It seems to be almost more than just twice as fast, like both artists involved kind of kick into high gear because there's this amazing opportunity to get so much work done in one session.
Yeah, and I definitely think what helped too was just, us, having a very like-minded approach, even down to like the nuts and bolts, like technical aspect of how we tattoo in order to, gain that much coverage and really see that much, work be completed in such a short amount of time.
Yeah, I think that one of the things I'm looking forward to now that we're going to have a chance to develop it more is, I really like the way that you render, the way that your organic stuff looks. There's a very airbrushy, painterly quality to it that's a bit different from what I do, and to see, the way that we render mixed like that, I think it's going to be dynamite because it's just different enough that it should result in something very unique.
I'd like to see Don McDonnald and Ty collaborate. How about that? That'd be interesting.
That would be an excellent mix.
Because Don's got a really nice softness to his work too.
Definitely,
and I think that
would
could look
be
really
cool.
cool.
I'd be into that.
Yeah, I would be honored to do that. That would be amazing, man. I've loved your work for a really long time. So yeah, if we could ever make that happen, yeah, I will be on the first plane there.
Definitely, that sounds good. And thanks for the compliment, man. Your work is awesome as well. I love seeing it.
Oh, thank you, Don.
It looks like we've got my lovely sister Hannah joining us.
Hi, Hannah.
Hey, hi guys.
Hi, Hannah.
Hey.
Yeah.
So, right now we've got Don McDonnell and Litos and Ty McEwen, who you can't see, but his voice is somewhere around. So, Hannah, we have done a few different collaborative projects, but the big one, we got to do this back piece.
That was so much
a
fun.
couple of years back. That was a lot of fun. Would you like to, let's just hear what you have to say about the collaborative process without me gumming up the works here.
Well, what was interesting about this process was that Guy and I were trying to go at it from the perspective of our artistic collaboration, but we were doing it for the TV format. And so we were trying to satisfy a bunch of different things at the same time. We had time constraints we had to deal with. We had to worry about this, being something that we were both comfortable enough doing that we could, manage to do something that was going to be really dynamic and interesting in a relatively short period of time. But we also wanted to kind of push each other a little bit as well. And I think we managed to do that. So, we didn't want to compromise the project in the interest of the format. So I think that, Guy, you probably will agree with that was our biggest challenge, was to try to make sure that the project was first and foremost the big success, and the TV thing was entirely, incidental to it.
Well, fortunately, the producers didn't have any kind of idea in their heads of what we should be doing or anything like that. They had some silly ideas about presenting the project, but they ultimately gave in to reason, and we're happy about it.
Yeah.
I think the time limitation was probably the biggest one, because normally, especially here at our studio, we just work until we're done or until the client is done. But, there's a lot of hurry up and wait. Okay, everybody be quiet while they do an interview. Don't sneeze. And that goes on for 45 minutes. It's suddenly, okay, you've got, 92 minutes to finish. Like, okay, go.
Yeah, right? It's like, when do the gods of the labor unions come in and shut the place down? So, yeah, it was interesting, but I was really pleased with the results. I don't feel like we were compromised. I think we pushed ourselves to be as efficient as possible. We were able to work at the same time on the back, so we didn't necessarily take turns as much as we were able to actually kind of go in and work together, which was nice. And we're both really pretty quick tattooers, so I think that.
Yeah, I think the pressure was good. I definitely fed off of that pressure. Sometimes it can grind you down a little bit, but in that particular case, I think for both of us, we were just energized by it.
I think what Hannah said is a great word, being efficient, and that's collaborations at their best, is figuring out ways of simplifying the process so you can get as much done as possible with in a timely manner. And that's what you guys definitely achieved.
Because, a lot of the time, you're talking about some tricky logistics, getting the client and both artists together for your follow-up session might be a lot trickier than just, going to an appointment.
Yeah, very true. But we laid a lot of the groundwork ahead of time, though. You had kind of consulted with her, and she talked about, she was really open to a lot of different things. You guys kind of arrived at the mermaid concept. Mermaid's something we're both comfortable doing, and then you were able to bring a lot of different ideas as far as atmospherics and color and elements to kind of surround her and give her an environment that I wouldn't necessarily come up with. And, I bring more figurative stuff to it. So we each kind of brought specific strengths to it. But I think that, you were also able to kind of push some different elements with, okay, maybe you might want to try wrapping the hands a different way. And be like, oh, wow, I don't usually do that. That's great. Let's try that. That's a different thing. That's more effective. So I think having people with different strengths, coming at the drawing from different angles kind of made the end result a little bit different than either of us would ever have done individually. And that's, I think, the seed of a really successful collaboration there.
Absolutely.
Well, how about the first question here? It's been here, one of the first ones. What are the pros and the cons of sculpting with hand as opposed to 3D sculpting?
You mean like digital 3D?
Yeah.
Well, first of all, anybody can do clay. That's definitely the biggest pro. And you don't need any experience at all. You just need a pair of hands, and it's like sketching, except it's in 3 dimensions. And I recommend using non-hardening white plasticine usually, because it photographs well, and you have no time limit. You just need to be able to support it with some kind of an armature. So if you're making a complex model, it doesn't fall apart. But if you're willing to learn 3D programs, they can take you into different places that are not reachable with clay.
I wish I had the skills with the computer, but I think the raw elements, I guess it's still the same questions. Like if they came up with a machine that tattooed someone without having a person behind it, it wouldn't be any heart to it. So I guess has a little bit more heart when you put your hands and sweat, blood, and tears into it. So,
well, you can also collaborate with clay a lot more easily, because 2 people can sit in front of it and work together and both have their hands on it, just like a collaborative tattoo. And digitally, you just couldn't have that same level of involvement.
I'm not that smooth with the digital model building either, so I know some of the models you and I have built, 30 hours worth of, sculpting in 3 days' time. Super elaborate models. So, yeah, like you said, we can't both be on the computer at the same time working on the same project.
Well, should we take the next audience question?
Sounds great.
How about if you could collaborate with somebody, live or dead, who would it be?
Well, gosh.
Is it as a tattooist or a painter?
Let's say any artist.
If I could collaborate with just an artist, it would be either Salvador Dali or Georgia O'Keeffe, for me personally.
And why?
Those 2 people are exceptional in different ways that I really admire.
Yeah, Dali was so wildly experimental. I mean, I would almost have to say Dali, except Michele already said that.
Just imagine what he could do with a tattoo machine.
Maybe MC Escher. Giger, he's still alive. I'd collaborate with him. I've just been told not to get in a car with him.
How about you guys, Hannah? Who are your fantasy?
Oh, I might have to take a judge's ruling on this one. I got to think about this for a minute. I was actually kind of thinking about this very question earlier today, kind of off the cuff. And I had no idea if it was even going to come up in
That's crazy.
Presentation. So I don't know. I'll pass it to Don, although he sounded like he was jumping on Giger there. So.
Yeah, I just blurted out HR Giger. That'd be pretty sweet to go painting with him.
How about you, Litos?
And I probably throw the Dali name there, but I'll have a hard time doing any work. I'll be watching the whole time and writing notes, taking pictures, and like bowing down. But probably Salvador Dali will be the ultimate for me.
Totally. Totally agree.
Times.
How about you, Ty? Is Ty still here?
Yeah, Ty's still here.
I guess I'd probably say Caravaggio. Yeah, I think so. Because I like his approach to everything. Like it's kind of a little bit more, on the darker side of things in a very interesting way. He would always take the subject matter and, for the time, he pushed it a lot further than people wanted to see it,
That's well said.
Made people a little uncomfortable intentionally.
Yeah. I felt like, his art, push things, in a different way rather than just visually, through more emotional,
Yeah, definitely. Those are all good choices, everyone. We'd all be great. What's the next question, Gabe?
Oh, wait, that's right, Hannah. That's right.
Not really a painter, but Arthur Rackham. He was more of an illustrator, but I mean, I loved his.
Yeah.
His interpretations of elements of nature. He kind of humanized them and anthropomorphized elements in nature, and everything had this sort of like dark, kind of surreal quality to it. So.
Right, but there was also just a touch of almost ornamental stylization to some of it.
Does he write children's books?
Well, he illustrated it.
Okay, I know the name. I'm not sure of the
And,
word.
some of the classic, like Pit and the Pendulum and stories like that. He did these really evocative, detailed, but at the same time, very stylized illustrations.
Well, I would say it's safe to say with this conversation that all these people we just cited are huge influences on the tattoo community and all of us as artists in general. And we are collaborating with them in some ways by just channeling their influence and applying it to our art, which is pretty cool.
Gabe, do we have time for one more question?
Yeah, we've got time. This will be a quick one, I suppose. When doing a collaborative project, how do you determine the price?
That's a good question.
Well, I think that depends on how badly you want to do the project and how hard it is to line somebody up. What we've been finding, at least when artists who already are being sought out, because we're able to work so efficiently, that we're able to charge our normal hourly rates because the person is getting their money's worth. They're getting actually more than their money's worth. They're going to go home with so much finished tattoo, more than twice as quickly as they would normally get. So paying 2 hourly rates at once is not actually spending more.
But if you really want to do the piece, it depends on the circumstances.
Yeah, absolutely. Gauge it as it comes.
Okay, one more. Have you ever pushed yourself to do something that is not in your comfort zone?
Well, Guy and I just collaborated recently on we did a sugar skull, and I know everyone else in this panel would be like, oh, no problem, but it's not necessarily my specialty. And it turned out great, and I really enjoyed getting outside of my comfort zone and doing something that, is not typical of my work. So.
Oh, and we did another skull, actually.
Oh, yeah, it turned out great, too.
We were doing this piece
Haru, right?
where decay was part of the theme, and
and drab, macabre, awesome colors, earth tones, and
we ended up doing
a
deer skull,
Yeah.
and it's sort of embedded in some leaves on the forest floor, and we tried to give it kind of actually sort of an Arthur Rackham-y, kind of slightly stylized, ornamental, illustrative quality to it, and so it's not a creepy tattoo at all, but it definitely says what it needs to say.
Your first experience should always be a control environment and a control idea and very studied, thought out in communicating with both of the artists. But if you're really trying to pursue something as artists, we always try to push the envelope. And actually, you should go heads on to actually be out of your comfort zone because that would take you to the next level. We all need that. We all need to strive for better and for faster and for longer. So it's definitely a positive thing, but you should do the cautious first and then you step up to the next level.
Definitely. How about you, Hannah? What are your thoughts on stepping outside of your comfort zone with a collaborative or anything really?
Well, everything. I mean, gosh, it's one of the things that I think establishing a comfort zone early in your career is such a bad idea. Like, I'm sure that sounds like I'm just pissing on someone's parade here, but trying to specialize too early in your career is denying yourself the opportunity to have all these endless opportunities to stretch outside of your comfort zone and learn the language that you can then use later and apply in a lot more different directions. And so I try to do that as often as I can. I know people see lots of the pinups and the figurative stuff from me, but that's just the stuff that ends up on the web. But I do a little bit of everything still to this day. I mean, I don't think I specialize in any one thing, but stepping outside of a comfort zone is something I'm excited about. Tough cover-ups, challenging line work, weird color choices, working around scar tissue, technical challenges, that sort of thing is just like, it's like catnip. I love it. Bring it.
That's great.
Denying yourself the opportunity to have more opportunities. I like that.
That is well said. I have something to say about the comfort zone because I clearly have one with my style, is that I always know what I want my work to look like. To its credit, and when I do something that's outside of my comfort zone, I'm a little bit more like, unsure because I don't know what I'm going for because I've never created it before. So I do like the cushioned aspect of the comfort zone in terms of what your goals are as an artist and knowing that you can achieve them. So I guess a little bit of both is probably like the Buddhist path, somewhere in the middle is always the best answer.
Yep. Make yourself just uncomfortable enough that you have to push yourself a little bit, but
always have that like pillow close by in case you need to rest.
So you don't fall flat on your face.
Yeah.
Well, it can end up being like, when you're driving home after you've been working really late and you get home and you get out of the car and you're like, wow, I just drove home and I don't remember doing it at all. Like I'm sure we've all done tattoos where you get to the end of it, you're like, wow, okay, I just did a tattoo. Okay. That's not, where you're kind of checking out. It's like, I like to think that I'm going to minimize the number of times I do that in my career, because I want to stay engaged as much as possible. It's like,
right. You don't want to phone them in.
Doesn't happen.
I kind of like that though, because it's like the work's being done, but you're not having to work hard for it.
Yeah.
It just happens, and it looks good when it's done. And I don't know, I kind of like that.
It's okay to coast sometimes.
Yeah.
It's just you don't want to coast all the time.
Right.
I mean, like Damon was saying last week, you know, you kind of want to take charge and not just let it happen. Be proactive.
Right.
Because if you just let it happen, it will all happen inside your comfort zone.
I
Absolutely.
like my comfort zone.
Well, you know, Michele says she likes
I
her
do
comfort
like
zone.
it. I have to be honest.
Yet at the same time,
Yeah.
it keeps changing. You know, she's using black now. This is, you know, she's
I'm not using outlines. I'm using shadows and, you know, developed edges.
she's using black now, and that was not her comfort zone, but as a result of probably from some collaborations and
Well, it's
things
because
like that.
I realize that there's always room for improvement, and I see what it needs when I assess it in my hindsight of being 2020. And, you know, you can evaluate things and imagine how you can improve them.
No matter what, your tattoos are going to look like you did them. You know what I mean? Like, regardless of how uncomfortable you are with the subject matter or whatever, like, it's still going to look
True.
like Michele did that tattoo, you know, or Guy or Litos or whoever, you know? Like, so I think no matter what, it always is going to look like it has your signature on it.
To quote Kelly Cody, it's going through the you filter.
Yeah.
That's her great quote, and it's totally true. No matter what you do, you can't help but be you. So it's always going to go through your process, which is going to have your signature hand in it, for better, for worse.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that is the beauty of it. That's what gives individuality. You know, one thing that I think we should give props to is to the clients that actually we get to experience and endure hours and hours of that. You know, if we feel that stress and all the hours that we put into it, that you can even remember that you're driving home, you know, imagine them enduring all this pain and actually going through there. You know, that shows their commitment. I, you know, commend them for that. So I really appreciate that. So we have to look out for people like that, and I really appreciate them the way they appreciate us as well. So
Definitely.
Definitely. You know, one thing I want to add about the comfort zone, because I'm thinking about it now, is that for me personally, I feel like the more I enjoy a piece, the less it's like work. So I do have a comfort zone in terms of the subject matter I prefer to tattoo, but that's also because that's what I enjoy the most. So when you look at the best tattooists, they all seem to have a specialist style, like Philip Liu in his Japanese influence, and you know, the countless others, Guy and his biomag, etc. Hannah and her pinups, for lack of a better description, or her Muka-esque inspired pieces, you know, etc., etc. So I don't necessarily think it's such a bad thing to be a specialist in tattooing, and
Right.
that is a comfort zone, to have your specialty that you do when you do well.
It's just good to evolve your comfort
It's
zone.
good to evolve and also your language within that zone.
Expanding
You
it.
Yeah, because you can always imagine how you could do a Muka-esque inspired piece differently. I can imagine how I could do a flower composition differently. You could do biomech.
Oh, yeah.
You could change it up. So there's always room to
I
improve.
hope to change it.
But I think it's okay to exist within a bandwidth if that's what you are the most passionate about.
Well, you know, I remember one time a conversation with Aaron Kane. We were talking about using references and bringing in an unexpected reference into a project. Well, what's going to happen is the whole project isn't going to be that reference. You know, it's still going to look like your work. If you're lucky, there might be one or two significant different things that manage to creep in as a result of that reference. But it's still going to be your drawing style. It's still going to look like your drawing. Bringing in this new thing, all it does is nudge it a little bit. If you're lucky, I mean, you should hope for that.
I would say probably half the tattoos I do are biomech style tattoos, and all the other stuff is realism, Asian style, all kind of stuff. And I learned just as much, you know, from working outside my comfort zone, and all that stuff ends up somehow into the biomech stuff, you know, in a real abstract way. So I think it's important. It keeps it fresh and keeps it fun.
Terrible call that I just don't know how to say no. And you know, everything they ask for, I find a way to, you know, in my own way, cleverly pull it out and always get that diversity on the work. You know, I love everything, and this is never ever. It will never be a job. This is my life, and it's our life, and you know that's why I love to be diverse and do as much as a variety as possible. It pushes me. It excites me.
And it makes people happy, you know.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But yeah, let's go ahead and do another question.
Well, do you want to maybe touch base on apprenticeships? Because you're looking for one, and I'm sure everybody else has some pretty good experiences and or advice for future apprentices.
Oh gosh, I've never had an apprentice. People sometimes ask, well, wasn't Michele your apprentice? I'm like, no, she's my spouse. She can't be my apprentice,
Plus, I don't listen to him, and that's part of the problem.
She doesn't listen to anything I say.
I don't put outlines in my tattoos.
But yeah, we've so far looked at about 100 applications, and we're hoping to find somebody who they don't necessarily have to have a brilliant art background, but a lot of art in their background, a history of trying hard and of really wanting it. And people like that can learn very quickly. And I think that it's sort of intimidating when you first get into tattooing. You look at the artists you like the most and you're like, oh man, they've been doing this 10 or 15 or 20 years. That's a long journey. And people learn faster all the time. Back when I got into tattooing, it took 5 years to get kind of good. Now people get at least that good in 2 years or 3 years or less. It makes me feel old and slow to see how quickly people learn this. So if you're coming in this with the right attitude, you don't have to worry about it being this endless journey. It's going to be a fun journey.
Yeah, you definitely have to have the passion, number one. You can have a little bit of a lack of skills, but if you have a lot of passion, that means you have a hunger to actually pursue something. Be a good listener and realize that all the years that we've been doing, we've been through the good and bad, so we have the shortcuts of resolving problems that we've been through it before. And that makes it a lot easier for an apprentice to actually don't have to reinvent the wheel in pretty much all directions.
That's why when you look at tattooing now and you see so much talent, it's important to remember where the talent came from, and it came from the previous generation, and everyone working hard to push the envelope just a little bit further to show what was possible for the next young person to come in and just take it by the reins and run. It's important to see the process of where it all evolved from.
Yeah, nobody's brilliant on their own.
Yeah, everyone worked hard to get where we are now.
Yeah, and the key is try to walk, not to run. So take your time, be patient, because it will come.
Tattooing's a real good way to humble you. When I started, I was never so bad at something. You know what I mean? It's just, so you got to be willing to be humbled and be patient, and that's a good start there.
I think one of the things that I keep mentioning when people ask me about my apprenticeship is that I think the greatest gift that Craig Murphy gave me is that he's such a upbeat guy. He loves tattooing. He loves the business. He loves the people that get tattooed. He's a pure walk-in shop. He doesn't take appointments ever. There's a queue out the door. They come in, they write down what they want on a clipboard, and they sit there and they wait. And so you have to draw everything on the spot, on the fly. You've got to be completely flexible. And what he taught me was that every one of these is a little gift. It's an opportunity for you to get a present out of it because you're learning something. And it's an opportunity for you to give somebody something really amazing that they're going to carry with them forever. So it's a mutually beneficial process. And that attitude is probably the best thing that he ever gave me. It's just like that this is something that, sometimes you go into a shop and you hear these guys, this jerk and this stupid idea and blah, blah, blah. I'm just like, how negative is that? You're screwing up your entire day right there. Why go into the day with that? So
right, that's very well said. And to quote Nick Baxter, it's an attitude of gratitude. Being an attitude of gratitude. That's his quote, but it applies to what you said beautifully. And if you can get something back from it, then you're growing and learning too. And also, I want to add to what Hannah just said, that some people just can't put words on their ideas. That's why they need us as artists to help them clean up their brains a little bit and clarify what it is they're trying to say. So to judge them without trying to get to the root of it, sort of unfair. Even though some people are crazy and you don't want them as a client, and I can tell you about that too. So there's a fine line there, but it doesn't have to be a black line. And sometimes it's a really thick one. Like the boundaries that you don't want to walk past.
Yeah, Don and I, we know all about those thick ones. Well, should we go ahead and start the critiques?
Sounds great. Yeah, I think that's.
Does everyone have them up on their phones? And I'm looking at this black and gray face, which is a really, really striking piece.
Oh,
black
yeah,
and gray,
there you go.
Stefano. And who is JP?
Jose Perez Jr.
Okay, Jose Perez and Stefano.
Well,
Is this on the thigh? Looks like it's on the thigh.
I think it's a thigh.
I believe it's a thigh, yes.
Yeah.
the rendering in it's really nice.
Yeah, well, the first thing I noticed was, I was looking at it small, and from a distance, you've got a really nice, clear division of dark and light. And, a piece like this, again, talking about the communication thing that Michele brought up, it would be easy to let this become a gray smear. So it's clear that they had great communication because they really held it together, despite the fact that it's so complex and so much going on in it. It doesn't turn busy, it's readable.
Definitely readable.
Yeah, I didn't get the email, but I am familiar with that piece.
Okay.
It is stunning.
Hannah, do you have anything to say?
Well, I'm a big fan of like really strong darks and lights, and you brought that up immediately, and that's one of the greatest characteristics of this piece is it really reads lovely because the dynamics of it are so strong. Going to a pure black and then just complete open skin in some spots, and it's just it's really effective.
Yeah, no, I don't know if this is a healed photo. Probably healed.
It looks healed to
those
me.
dark
Yeah,
areas
looking at the top.
It looks healed to you?
Yeah.
Possibly. I think some of those blades coming in could have been a little chunkier. There is just a little busyness going on, especially at the very bottom.
Yeah.
If this person were wearing shorts and that was the only part sticking out, it would be sort of just the dark, chunky thing.
It might have been interesting to see the very bottom kind of go into like a halftone of a wash, so it faded out a little bit.
Yeah, or
the
see some of those textures just dissolving into skin. That would be a nice, like dark and light bands of these textures dissolving into skin. Just so it didn't, have that sort of like erased around kind of look that it has.
But it's a great piece. It's really nice.
Gorgeous.
One of the better collaborations I've seen of that style.
Well, it's so different from the collaborations that we've normally seen. I mean, this is really a unique standalone piece, and the fact of it being so different did not prevent it from also being dead on. Sometimes you see something that's really different and refreshing and experimental, and if they were to do it again, it might even be awesome. In this case, it's all of the above.
This is the next one's Tanane Whitfield and Frank Linatra.
The other piece that I have is this, one with the crazy cartoon bug at the top.
Yep, that's it.
Okay.
Nice again. Well, I guess the first thing I would contribute to this is it's hard to read the distinctions of what's happening. It looks kind of like a little chaotic visually to me from this picture. Like this looks kind of like you can't see the clarity of what's happening.
Right, you've got that crazy face at the top, but it doesn't pop out from the background. It either should be a lot darker than the background or a lot lighter than the background, but especially that lower jaw is about the same value as the background. Now, this would be a time to apply the Watson test. Take this piece, grayscale it, and you would see that lower jaw disappear. It's really only the orange that makes it stand out, and I think it needs to have a difference in value as well. Then there's that other shape just below that jaw. And again, the same thing's happening. You've got a lot of different elements that are pretty much the same value. And so, just by deciding which of my shapes are going to be the dark ones and which are going to be the light ones and making sure you alternate between them, you can prevent that from happening. We only have the two images. The third one didn't come through.
Let's just talk then.
Yeah. I think we can wrap this up without needing another critique. Gabe, are there any more particularly interesting questions that we should field while we're all here?
Somebody was wondering about if you should start with collaborative paintings instead of going straight to collaborative tattoos, or maybe when, is there time to know when you should step into each arena?
Well, I would contribute that you should maybe think about doing a collaborative painting with someone and see how you jive with them before you commit to skin if you're not sure. Because there's less of a, you have more room for I guess, exploration a little bit there. See how you jive, see how you work together.
But whatever you're most comfortable in, I mean, if you and this other artist are experienced painters, definitely do a painting together. If you're not, you might not do a great project.
You could do a drawing together. You could start with a drawing.
Right. So, you know, start brainstorming about tattoos. And if you can do a great drawing together, it'll be a great tattoo as long as you have the communication.
How about you, Hannah?
You know, Guy and I did a collaborative couple of paintings years ago, and I've done collaborative paintings and drawings and stuff, and you know how much, like, you know, exquisite corpses were tons of fun when I was first starting out. I mean, we've all done those. That sort of thing is kind of like a weird mashup collaboration. It's neat to see what other people bring to an idea, and collaborative drawings and paintings are a no muss, no fuss way to kind of do that. So I'm all for it.
But yeah, if you're nervous about going straight to skin with a collaboration, definitely just find a medium that you and this other artist are both comfortable in. I guess that would be it. Starting with painting only makes sense if you both paint.
That's a good point.
But if you're both experienced tattooers, there's no reason that can't be your first project is one on skin. As long as the drawing is something that you work on together that you both are really happy with, you're both on the same page. If there's any doubts about any part of it, just make sure you've talked it through before you actually go to skin. And then there's not really a whole lot that can go wrong. Of course, I haven't been around for one that has, so.
Of course.
I've heard a few horror stories, but you know.
Really? Have you?
I have, and I'm not going to share them here because it would involve naming names.
Well, that happens with all collaboratives when people aren't communicating and their ego is leading them.
If it becomes a contest, it's not going to turn out well. If you have something to prove, or you want to demonstrate that you're better than this other artist that you're working with, it's not going to turn out well. I mean, that's a given. That shouldn't be present, and it's no fun if it is. The fun part is when you are with this other artist in equal roles, and you're there with a completely open outer shell, so to speak, where you're not coming to it with an expectation other than you want it to turn out great. And if you have ideas, be happy with only half of them really being used, because that's how it should be. You want to find it's a comfortable and fun way to get out of your comfort zone because you're working with somebody else who's good. I mean, presumably you want to get into a project with somebody who's good, and you want to change up what you're doing. That's the whole purpose of it.
It's part of the fun, let go a little bit, and if you're kind of on the fence about what decision to make about a certain part of it, I'd rather do what say what you want to do or what somebody else wants to do, just to hopefully learn something from it.
Yeah. When you climb a mountain, you want to make sure that you both get to the top, and not just one. So make sure you help each other out. And it's a rough terrain, but you both have to get to the top equally. So that's pretty much the collaborative work.
Good metaphor.
Yeah.
Now I got a suggestion.
All right. We still can't see you, but you got any comments to make?
I just think it's important, to try to learn as much as you can from each other when you're collaborating, as well as, meeting halfway with, giving it your all. I think everybody else, really hit the nail on the head with their comments.
Guy, a convention that is a collaborative convention to where people will sign up, will make a suggestion, say, I want to get a piece by this artist and this artist collaborating on it, and it will be a whole convention of collaborative work.
Gabe, we have a project for you.
Yeah, Gabe.
I'll be happy to help you run it.
That would be unbelievable. I mean, it would be extra logistics, but that would be unbelievable.
Well,
it's been great having such a big panel tonight. This has been fun.
Nice talking to all you guys.
It's almost like a digital party here on Skype. Thanks everyone else who's tuned in for this. We're going to have a cleaned up, edited version of this posted sometime in the next 2 weeks. Hannah, always lovely to see you. Don't freeze in Pittsburgh. And we still have to finish our collaborative owl drawing. Hannah and I have something in the works
That's a collaboration.
It's absolutely my fault that it's been sitting on my desk for as long as it has. But it'll be awesome.
As you know, I've got a few things in the works myself, so.
Yeah.
It does happen. Hard to make the time sometimes, but always worth it.
Definitely. And Don, nice to see you. And you too,
Really?
Litos. It's been a great conversation today. And Ty, even though we can't see you, nice to hear from you.
In 2 weeks, we've got Jeff Gogway. He will be our guest. And this time it'll just be one guest, but he's somebody who's really turning out some refreshing work. People are really enjoying what he's doing. He's combined some real interesting influences. It's sort of illustrative. It's definitely got a lot of Japanese in it. It's got some nouveau going on. And it's, well, you know, Jeff's putting it through the Jeff filter. And I want to ask him all about it. Very curious to hear what he has to say.
Sweet. Thanks for including me in
Anyone
this
else?
tonight, guys. It was a lot of fun.
Sounds good.
All right,
See you guys in the future.
Good to see you
Thank you,
guys.
guys. Good night.